Hey, gorgeous! Welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast with Holly Wharton, which combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset along with practical business tips to grow your business. This podcast features solo shows with Holly and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, here's your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 205. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's special guest, Alisoun Mackenzie. Often described as one of the most authentic, inspiring, and heart-centered leaders you can meet, Alisoun is on a mission to guide heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs grow profitable business that are a force for good. Alisoun I first met her at No Limits in Brussels earlier this year, and I absolutely loved the talk that she gave on how to grow your business by supporting charities and social causes. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm super excited to welcome her on the show. So welcome, Alisoun.
Hi, Holly. I am super excited as well. Thank you so for having me on. It's a delight to be here.
Excellent. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today with your business?
Okay. Well, it's a complete opposite, actually. My background was in the investment industry, which is a very odd place for me to have come from to be doing what I'm now doing. But I took redundancy from that industry in 2003 to set up my own business. And perfectly honest, at that point, like many other business owners, it's actually about how do I earn money without having a job. And that was my focus. Although I was very much motivated to be making a difference to others' lives. So when I started out, I was doing training and coaching and trained as a therapist in a number of different ways. I'm definitely motivated to make a difference. And that was one of the reasons why I knew I needed to leave the investment world, because there were just a clash of values. So for me, I started the focus was building that business. I enjoyed it, but I got to the stage in 2008 where I was running a successful and lucrative training consultancy business, but I still just felt there was something missing. You know, I felt like I'd got to a stage where I'd become a slave to a job that I'd created, and it's that realization that I was the common denominator.
And there was no one to blame but yourself.
I mean, we can't blame anybody for anything that happens in our business when we are the ones running it. And that was a bit of a wake-up call. And so that was when I started to look at what I could do differently. And I had just come back from a 3 weeks in India doing some training consultancy. And I really didn't agree with the values of the organisation that had asked me to go out there. And I can remember going into that company and just saying to them one Friday morning, I don't think you need me anymore. I've trained up your people to do this training. I've trained all your staff in the UK and India, and you can take it forward from here. So how about I just pack it all up, hand it over, and leave this afternoon? And I think they were a bit surprised, but it was just so liberating. And yeah, that was me. I set my intention for what I was then looking for the future, and that's where things started to take me in a different direction.
And what was that different direction, and how did you start adding supporting charities to your business?
Well, I literally, the very next day, I'd set the intention that I want to do something more meaningful with my life, where I had a deeper sense of connection. And I just started to think about the things that were actually missing in my life. So for me, I hadn't had children for whatever reason. And so I knew I wanted to do something that involved helping young people. I knew I wanted to do something that involved travel, because it was my number one passion. And also something that made use of my skills. Because whenever I see footage of wars and natural disasters on the telly, I just feel useless because there's nothing I can do to help other than donate money. And so I really wanted to find something that would make use of any of the skills I had. I didn't particularly know which one. And the very next day, I had a film came into my inbox of a project with a woman called Dr. Laurie Leiden, who's now one of my good friends. And she was doing work with genocide survivors in Rwanda. And I just saw this short film and I just knew instantly, I just thought, that is for me. And I got in touch and said, love what you're doing. How can I help you? And she said, fancy a Skype call on Monday. And about 8 weeks later, I'm up the top of a mountain in Rwanda. Standing in an orphanage, looking at all these people waiting for me to deliver what I was there to do. And when I first got involved, again, the intention had never actually been to bring the charitable giving into my business. It was more that I wanted to go off on this trip for me personally. I wanted to find a cause to support. I wanted to find a cause I could get involved involved in, not just donate money to. And when I went there, that first trip just broke my heart open for the potential of human beings that we all have to heal. And I knew I couldn't leave these people. I knew that I wanted to continue to support them, but I was running a business and I didn't have the capacity, the time to take out to do a lot of fundraising plus run the business. So for me, what just seemed natural was to look at, well, how do I bring fundraising into what I'm doing in my business? And so that's really where the journey started.
And what were some of the mindset blocks or things that you had to overcome as you were building your business and incorporating charity into it?
One of them, that's a really good question. One of them was definitely, how do I do this in a way of not being overwhelmed? Definitely. There was definitely some blocks around, could I do this in a way that wasn't going to overwhelm me? And actually, one of the things, I used various different techniques to overcome my mindset. A lot of them, one of them is tapping, but another one is actually simply sometimes asking myself resourceful questions, such as, how could I do this in a way that is easy and effortless, or in the minimum, with the minimum negative impact to me or my business? Well, I just need to do part of my business. So I started off making miracle bead bracelets that I know you've seen, Holly. Yes. And just started off making these. I didn't know where it was really going to go, but I would take them along to networking events thinking, well, maybe a few people might buy some of these and I can raise the funds that way to fund, my trip and going out, project costs and that kind of thing. And I never for 1 minute expected that they would go on to set, they've literally raised tens of thousands of dollars now, these bracelets, which amazes me. But yeah, that was the art of it really. And just responding to how people were then asking me to get involved in different ways.
So since you've brought charity into your business as a really integral part of your business, you found that supporting charities actually helped you to grow your business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. What started to happen was, because I was taking these bracelets along to networking events, and I was doing that every event I was going to, I would be carrying these bracelets, and people started to talk about me as the Rwanda lady, the lady that goes to Rwanda. So I started becoming more memorable, and actually the fact that people were wearing my bracelets, and they're quite distinctive, other people would then be saying, so where did you get that? And then the story about me and what I did was coming out and people were talking about it. And so I started to get asked to do more speaking events. I started to get asked to do parties at people's homes where I would go along and do, demo some therapies or do some mindset talk, do some kind of talk to a friend and teach them something. I'd have my bracelet. We'd raise money for charity, but I started to realise I was then getting bookings for one-to-one sessions from the people that had been to these parties, or I started to get client bookings from people who'd attended my speaking event. And it was that wake-up call of, wow, I'm just doing what I want to do because I want to be kind and making a difference, but people are resonating with that story, with my values, and were then choosing me to come to and to help them. So that was one aspect. I guess another aspect was that the project I was involved in became quite high profile in the States. And so I started to be asked to go along to some event that literally, there's no other way I would have been invited along to them, but I was, because I was involved with this charitable component. And the people I was meeting there were able to support me and take me out to a much wider audience. So enabled me to build relationships with key players because we had a common value or a shared interest. And those connections, those relationships, just I found are much stronger and they happen much quicker than you're building relationships without that connection.
I think that's a really important point, that a lot of times people don't see all of the kind of residual benefits that come from supporting the charity. You're not just helping out, but you're building this massive network of people who have a shared interest.
That's right. Definitely a shared interest. And they're much more likely, I find when I've gone out and asked for help and support because I'm doing something charitable, people say yes. And, I do just find myself in these situations where I'm around people that there's no other way I'd be sitting around a table with them had I not been doing this work. So, and I know I'm not the only one to have experienced that.
So for business owners who are listening to this, who have a favorite charity or have a cause that they want to support, what would be your top tips on how they can get started supporting this charity, supporting this cause, and grow their business at the same time?
The first thing I'd be suggesting that they actually take time to reflect on, without a doubt, is why are they wanting to do this? Because this directs the choices in terms of things like, how are you going to therefore support the charity? So for instance, if you are looking to support that cause that's close to your heart, maybe you've lost somebody and you want to help raise some funds for that cause, then that would take you down the route of therefore fundraising. Whereas it might well be for other people, they've maybe moved to a new location and they don't know many people, but they have a cause that's close to their heart, so they want to be go out and get involved and meet people. So really connecting into your why is really important, because that does shape not only the cause you would definitely support, but in terms of the type of support you'd want to give. So really tap in and connect to why you want to do this. Thereafter, if you do already have a cause, then it is deciding, right, how do you want to support that cause? Because there's so many different ways. I've mentioned fundraising, I've mentioned volunteering, and volunteering, it could be donating your time for a week, it could be one day a month, it could be in tiny micro, you get micro volunteering, which is just literally a few minutes every so often. Maybe you are looking to help them get more supporters. So again, it would be looking at how you could do that. It could be that you want to donate time to them. You might want to donate stock to them. So there's lots of different ways we can actually do it. And one of the things I suggest you do is also get clear on things like how much time and money or resources do you want to dedicate to this, especially if you're somebody, and I know I've found it hard at different points. I just want to make a difference and I want to help everybody. But if you do that, you're not going to have a business.
Yeah.
It is actually about being very clear and setting yourself clear boundaries in terms of, right, I'm going to do this one day a month or so many hours a month or a week, whatever it is going to fit in with what you're doing. If you're wanting to do it in a way that is going to grow your business rather than being philanthropic. So we could be philanthropic through our business, which is a nice thing to do. But if you want to actually grow your business by doing this, then it's actually about strategically linking your charitable activities to your existing business goals.
And so what are those strategic links? Because I think it can be really difficult to envision these kinds of links unless we've done it before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if I give an example of fundraising, when I started out, my fundraising activities were always geared towards my ideal clients in my business. So I was taking my bracelets along to networking events where my ideal clients hang out. That's why I ended up then getting more referrals from those people who attended those events or events they organise. And likewise, I might speak at events that were full of my ideal clients. When I was doing that, I had a lot of people who came forward and said, Alisoun, we want to help you raise money. What about if we organised a charity ball, or I'll donate my time to do this? And it was very kind of them to do that, but actually they were suggesting events that were not going to help me move my business forward. So I was saying no to them. So it's actually, in business, the strategic link, if you're fundraising, is always to come up with solutions that your ideal clients would love anyway. And then you're looking at ways in which you can provide those. So for instance, if I give an example, I did a fundraising event last night. It was an online fundraising event, and I could have organised a free webinar, as many people do. And before I did this, that's what I would have done. I would have had a webinar. And what I decided to do, however, last night was have a fundraising webinar and masterclass. So it's slightly different for me when I'm doing those. For instance, all the money, all the profits go to a cause. If it's just me running them, it will be my cause. If I'm running it with somebody else, we split that 50-50. And what I have found is that people love supporting you. I get people signing up to that who are maybe not, they're maybe thinking they're interested in the topic at some point, but maybe not straight away, but they want to support me anyway, so I raise the money. I get higher attendance rate by people who've actually done this. And actually, I do also get higher conversions at some stage from those people that come to those events. I never ever sell on those events. Very categorically, it's a fundraising event, but it helps build my visibility, particularly if I'm doing that with a partner, and we go out and they just get a feel for me and my values by doing that.
So I have a question. I think a lot of people find it easy to be interested in or to support humanitarian causes, but because we're human and we want to help other humans. But what about maybe non-humanitarian causes or some of the more obscure charities and things? I don't know, like eco charities as opposed to humanitarian charities. Do you find that would get the same type of interest, or do you think that might be more challenging?
That's a really good question, Holly. And I have to admit, in all my experience, most people who I have worked with have been doing it either for animals or people. Mm-hmm. And I guess in terms of how effective it would be, would again depend on the cause and your audience. So I would be fairly confident that I would still get a good response for things that are topical. Mm-hmm. So for instance, at the moment, I just have a thing about plastic. I'm doing my best to eliminate plastic, and most of my community are doing the same thing. But actually, here's another one. Water. There's a lot going on around water at the moment. Now, I know that's about clean water, drinking water for people. It is a humanitarian, but there's also an environmental as well. So I think it would actually depend on your audience. What I tend to find is if you start with a cause that's really close to your heart and your audience resonate with that too, then that's what will come through. But when it actually, thinking broader than this, at the end of the day, research shows in the marketplace, sometimes people say, is supporting charities and social causes, is it actually good for business? And the reality is that if you look at younger generations than you or I, Holly, bless us, if we look at the millennials, so those born between roughly 1980 to 95, or Generation Z, which is a cohort after the millennials, they prefer to buy from or work for businesses who not only care and are socially, environmentally friendly, but they also have to be demonstrating that. So that isn't just actually about the people or the animals, that's about the planet. And in some respects, I suppose that has been a mission that's been around for longer, is that sustainability of the planet. And I think that is a big thing just now. I just don't personally have an awful lot of experience of having gone with that as a cause.
So do you think that perhaps some causes, if you want to support them linked to your business, it might be best to just do it from a personal side rather than a business side? So I'm thinking, for example, there's this one charity that I'm really big on right now because I recently did this walk down the old Way and Arun Canal down in Surrey and Sussex. And it's this old canal that was abandoned in the mid-1800s. And now there's this, ever since the 70s, this charity that's been working on restoring the canal to make it navigable again. So this is something that's not necessarily good for the environment. I mean, it's not bad for the environment, but it's not humanitarian. Like, it's just a very random, very unique, obscure cause. And I'm thinking, if I start talking to people about this and how I'm really, really jazzed about this charity, restoring this old canal, people are going to be like, what the heck are you going on about? So is that the kind of thing that maybe you should just do on your own as a personal thing, or should you give it a try linking it to your business?
I would give it a try. I mean, I see business as a constant experiment.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, everything we do in business is an experiment. And hearing you speak, I think what the unique position we are in when we are business owners and entrepreneurs of small businesses is we have the agility to make decisions that reflect our values, to try something out and to tweak it if it doesn't work as we anticipate. And when I listen to you, all I actually care about, Holly, when you were saying that, is you're coming across as somebody who's caring and wants to make a difference. And that's what's important to me. The cause isn't so much important, you know? And I know that people want, when I've done stuff, they want to help the genocide survivors in Rwanda, but they're not emotionally charged to them in the same way I am.
Yeah.
They really are just supporting me as a person and the fact that I want to do good. So one of the things I talk about that I usually say to people is, if you want to be out there fundraising and doing good, make it something you're passionate about. We don't have to align that to our business. What's more important is there is a passion. Now, for some people, like I've got a local dentist and he's passionate about going out, not dentist, optician. He's passionate about going out and doing work in Africa with projects there and doing fundraising there. That happens to be completely aligned to his work. If we have a cause like that, then that's great. But I don't think that we have to. If you find that people aren't responding, then you could just find something that is maybe more attractive to your audience. I'm really not sure you'd need to.
Yeah, it sounds like the important thing is, like you said before, getting clear on your why, getting clear on how you want to support it, and telling the story of why you're so passionate about this.
Yes. And this is where smaller causes and projects, and when I talk about supporting charities and social causes, they don't even have to be a registered charity or a registered social cause. It could be somebody, and we see this on Facebook and in social media, somebody who's having a difficult time and we go off to support them. Or as you're talking about some kind of community project where it's something that's important to you. Sometimes the smaller causes need our support even more than the bigger ones. What you may find by going out and supporting that cause and talking about it more is other people who resonate with that cause might actually come to you as potential clients. It could open up a whole other audience.
Yes, that's true. I think that's something, like, as we said earlier, we don't realize the network that we create by talking about these things, and by talking about these things that we're passionate about in addition to our business, what opportunities can open up as a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. If I can just turn the table for a moment, Holly, just ask you, when you meet people who are doing something that is kind in one way or another, how does that make you feel about them, either as a friend or as a potential partner in business or somebody you might buy from?
Well, I love seeing people who are really passionate about something, whether it's their business or a cause or anything, but people who love something and they're really jazzed about it. Like, I love that. I think that's really exciting. It makes for a great conversation. I want to learn more about them. I want to learn more about the thing, whatever it is, even if it's something I've never heard of before. So yeah, I love it because it makes me so much more interested in that person.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sure others would get from you, because I hear that enthusiasm and excitement from you.
I think that's a really, really good point. So not to be afraid of some of the smaller or lesser known causes.
Definitely not. Definitely not. They do need our support. So many people will have causes in their community that they want to support, and sometimes it's actually about leading the way and showing people that we can do that too.
Oh, I think that's excellent. Because I think the more of us who step up and support causes as part of our business, the more we teach people that that's an option. Because I think a lot of people have never thought about that before. I mean, whenever I've thought about supporting the different charities that I support or giving money to Kiva loans or that kind of thing, I always do think about it from a personal level, not from a business level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I've decided to step out with Give to Profit, because most business owners and entrepreneurs keep their business activities and charitable giving completely separate. You need to do it. And when I speak to people, nearly everybody just says, I never really do that. You know, we're taught that we need to set up commercial businesses that are commercial, or we might set up a charity or non-profit or a social enterprise. But, you know, nobody really talks about the fact that you can have a commercial business that has social impact.
Yeah. So
tell us your way of doing it.
Yeah, I know. It's a completely new way of doing things. So you mentioned Give to Profit. Tell us about your book, because I'm in the middle of it right now, and I think it's a fantastic book that gives you really, really practical information. So tell us about that.
Thank you, Holly, because that's exactly why I wrote it. It's a book that's written to explain what Give to Profit is about, to explain the benefits, and to just give lots of practical tips. So, for instance, 25 different ways that you can support charities and social causes, and also ways in which you can raise funds, but talking people through the process. So you asked me for, we were talking about the why. There's a section in there about if you don't have a cause close to your heart, how you can choose it. And importantly, if you're somebody who wants to do fundraising, to be aware of the legislation that applies in many countries around fundraising through a business, which is nothing to worry about. It's just being aware of what to actually do around that. So that was the purpose of the book, was to share ideas, to inspire people to think about how they could do it for themselves if it resonated and fit with their values and where they're taking their business.
Excellent. So, Alisoun, do you have any women business mentors, maybe within the charity world or just in the business world, or are there any women entrepreneurs who inspire you?
Oh, nice. Without a doubt, my friend Laurie Layden, who I go to Rwanda with, I mean, oh my God, she inspires me so much. She is a business person. She also runs a charity. And what has been the biggest thing that I keep taught, as well as having an amazing heart, it's been her ability she's had this vision, and my God, there have been times when keeping this charity going has been hard, and doing all the fundraising, but she's just had the ability to trust and hold that vision through all the ups and downs, and it's wonderful to see the miracles are now happening. So without a doubt, she would definitely be one of them. And then there's people like Anita Roddick. There are people that many of us will know about who have set up incredible businesses and been real leaders in their field.
Yes. So do you mind sharing the name of this charity that you've been supporting in Rwanda?
Yeah, the charity is called Create Global Healing, and we've been doing work in Rwanda. Our young people in Rwanda have been helping people in Newtown, America, who suffered a loss, a bit like what we had with Dunblane here. It was a primary school shooting in America. And actually, I'm just back from Australia, where the project is now doing similar work with Indigenous people in Australia and refugees over there.
How exciting to see how it's grown and how your involvement has grown. I mean, you're traveling all over the world to work with this charity.
Yeah, it's great.
And as you said earlier, that goes back to one of your passions, which was travel.
Completely and utterly. And while originally, I guess I thought I was just going to be using more my therapeutic skills and my training and leadership skills, it is now looking at things, the consultancy skills are coming in. So when you get involved with a cause, you just don't know where it's going to go.
And And I think that's something very, very important to point out, because you might have an idea of how you want to support the charity, but as the charity grows and as your involvement grows, it might blossom into something that you can't even imagine right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It often changes you as a person. You know, we think we're going in to help others, but often it's what we get back that is where a lot of the transformation takes.
I love that. So, Alisoun, we've been talking a lot about your charitable activities, but what about your business? How can our listeners connect with you or work with you?
Well, if they want to go to my website, it's the easiest thing, which is just simply Alisoun, ALISOUN.com, and they can see their details of all the different services around mentoring, business mentoring, but also Give to Profit side of things, and also just givetoprofit.com.
Excellent. Perfect. And where can people find you online in addition to your websites? Do you hang out on social media?
Oh, yes. I'm on most of the usual places. So Twitter, Alisoun Mackenzie, and Facebook is Alisoun. It's Facebook /Alisoun Business or Give to Profit again. So yes, I'm all over the place.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and I really think that this has given the listeners great ideas on how they can bring charitable work into their business.
Oh, thank you so much, Holly. I've really, really enjoyed the discussion. I love the way you've been asking the questions and get me to think as well. So thank you so much, and thanks to everyone that's listening.
Yay, thank you. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/205 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you.